Police officer attempted to intimidate my patient, loses fight to physics. I'm a paramedic. A few months ago, we're coming back from a routine patient transfer when at an intersection about 4 blocks from the base I noticed a woman sitting on the side of the road with her arms wrapped around herself and her head down. I nudge my partner who's driving, and we flip on the lights and I see her head come up real fast, and she looks terrified. I get out and she relaxes when she sees the ambulance. After I approach, I notice bruising on her wrists and other similar signs of domestic assault. She seems hesitant to get up off the curb and into the ambulance, so I decided that I would at least pull the cot out of the back and give her something a little more comfortable than concrete to sit on. Now a few important details. All the cots in my service are striker-powered cots. You've almost certainly seen these before. They're bright yellow with black handles and side panels. These cots have a motor and battery built in to allow us to raise and lower the cot at the touch of a button instead of throwing out our backs having to physically lift the cot up after loading someone. They're usually paired with an automatic loading system built into the ambulance that lifts the cot up to the right height to be pushed inside and also secures the cot when loaded. There's a little red tab at the end of the track, just inside the doors, that you press down to free the cot and allow it to slide out. When you press this tab, it simply releases the cot and the loading carriage it's connected to, and it's up to you to keep it under control until it reaches the unload position and locks into place again. This can be problematic because these cots weigh about 125 pounds, about 55 kilograms. As soon as I hit the release tab for the cot, I hear lights and sirens behind me. It's a city police car, which is weird because we had not yet requested police, and we were outside the city, in the sheriff's department jurisdiction. We merely informed dispatch that we were stopping to check on a woman at such and such intersection. The woman says something along the lines of "Oh God, he's here," and moves faster than me, seeing free food being distributed at base. She dashes past me and pretty much hurls herself into the ambulance, sitting on the bench seat. The cop is approaching and he's pissed. I put 2 and 2 together and slam the ambulance doors shut. Let's call this officer Police Officer Steve, or POS for short. POS, is that is she in there? Me. Who? POS, you know damn well who I am talking about. Me, you mean my patient? I'm afraid I haven't gotten a name yet. POS, open those doors, I need to talk to her. Me, you're not using my rig as an interview room. You can talk to her at the hospital. We went back and forth like this for a few minutes. My partner at some point came back to see what the holdup was, but overheard my stonewalling and went back to the cab to call our chief. I continue my routine of denial and delay until a pair of deputies, likely specifically requested for this by the chief, arrive. Oh good, now I have witnesses. See, we had stopped on an upwards incline. I had hit the release tab on the cot and it wanted to slide back. I had to close the doors so swiftly, I didn't bother pushing the cot back against the stops and locking it in place. Emboldened by the presence of 2 deputies, he gets in my face. Get out of my way or I'm gonna have to be charged with obstruction. Okay. I step out of his way, and he opens the double doors. Between the cot, the monitor, and the jump bag, I'd say there was probably close to 160 pounds contained by those doors, all of which comes barreling out and hits POS square in the chest. He goes backwards and falls on his ass. One of the deputies laughs aloud. The other walks up and kneels down beside the guy. He says, "Your shift captain is going to be here in 5. I wouldn't be here then if I were you." POS gathers himself up and scowls at me, then stomps off. There is a limited amount that I can say about the aftermath as the trial is not settled yet, but we all know how well charges stick to cops. The woman is now living elsewhere, the cop is still a cop, and I have been getting pulled over at least twice a week ever since then. But the video footage of him getting body checked by that cot remains one of the best things I have seen. Professor made me write my entire final project in ICU. I know. The title sounds intense, but there is no way I can make it less like a clickbait, cause it is what it is. So back in early December I started to feel sick. Not sick, but I have not been able to eat a lot and lost around 8 kilograms of weight in 10 days. I will admit that I am fat and was kinda happy that I just magically dropped weight. I was blaming it on too little rest. I just didn't get used to the food here in the US. I came here from another country for college, or I might have digestive problems, might need to check them out. It was on the 13th that everything just suddenly went downhills. I woke up exhausted, sweating, and not being able to eat anything other than drinking bottles and bottles of water. It lasted for the entire day until 10 p.m. I started to feel like I'm about to pass out, so I went to an ER nearby with my roommate. Well, in short, I had COVID, as well as a certain life-threatening thing going on. I'm not going to name it, but some of you might be able to tell from above. I had immediately a bunch of IVs put in and was moved to one of the ICUs. I lost consciousness as soon as I arrived in the ICU and didn't wake up until the next morning, and for the next 48 hours or so I have been slipping in and out of consciousness. My doctor wanted me to sit in a chair instead of laying down all day, so pretty much all day I was just passed out in a chair. I can vaguely remember dropping my phone on the floor and I didn't even have the energy to pick it up. Now all that was the buildup. On the 3rd day when I finally felt better, I went on my school portal and saw a new message from one of my professors, telling me that I'm late for turning in my essay for the final project. Cause it was finals week. Duh, I know I had the essay 80% completed and it was in my laptop, which was packed and sent to a friend's place by my roommate, because we were moving out of our dorm room at the time. And that friend happened to be out of town in NY celebrating the new year. And even if my roommate got the laptop somehow from the friend's place, they wouldn't have been able to hand it to me because I had COVID and they didn't allow me to visit. So yeah, everything was screwed. I explained the entire situation to the professor in a long, fully written out message, and they never responded. Fast forward a few days, the professor contacted me again, this time via email, to ask about my assignment. Their entire message was like, "My name, where is your project?" I was triggered. I was mad. Well, to be honest, I wasn't in my best mental state because of what happened in the past few days. So I pasted my entire message that I sent to her in my email responding to that, just in case she hadn't read it in the school portal website. She went something like, well, too bad, I'm going to have to fail you on this project, cause it has been assigned 2 weeks ago and you should have done it then, ma'am. I could have totally finished it before the deadline if I wasn't in ICU and in a coma for 2 days without my laptop. The doctors ended up deciding to keep me for a few more days after I'm no longer in danger, and how did I make good use of that? I asked for a bunch of paper that, of course, had the hospital's name printed on them. I wrote my entire essay again, by hand, on them. When you write the same piece of text the second time, trust me, it becomes way easier than the first time. I made sure to write as neatly as I can, trying my best to guilt them in every way possible. Then, as I promised in my response, I took a picture of it, making sure that I accidentally included my hand that is swollen with the fourth plugged in and a bit of my hospital robe, they call it a Johnny, and sent it away. I sent the assignment to them on December the 17th. Not until yesterday, way after the semester had ended, that they called and kinda sorta apologized. I was too busy to check my messages because finals are coming up, so I barely looked at your explanation, blah blah blah. I've no idea where they got my number, but fine. I'll take it. As of now, I have decided to take a gap year and go back to my home country for a bit. My health has been greatly affected by what happened, and going back home to take some rest might be good for me. I also get to spend some time with my mom, who has been very anxious since the first day I had the medical incident. It ruined my mom's life and reputation. My 40F parents, dad, 63M, and mom, 60F, have been married for 43 years. I have 6 siblings, 42F, 38F, 34F, 20M, 20M, 18M. I have been with my husband, 39M, since we were 15. I got pregnant at 17 and we moved in with my parents. I gave birth to my now 22-year-old daughter. We got married at 18 shortly after. My dad's father passed away shortly after our wedding and left his ranch-style house to my father. My grandparents built a house next door to my parents when they retired. My parents decided to let us live in this house and told us this would be my inheritance. My husband and I had no issues with this. We went on to have a 20M, 14F, 5F, and I'm currently 7 months pregnant with my last child, a boy, due in April. I thought I had a good marriage. We were intimate more than twice a week. We went on date nights. We bought each other gifts. We didn't fight. My entire world was shattered on New Year's Eve when I returned early from a girls' trip I had taken with some friends. I walked into my bedroom to find my mom having intercourse with my husband. My mother screamed at me to get out of their bedroom, which really shook me up even more. Unfortunately, my oldest daughter was also home in her bedroom across the house getting ready for a party. She ran out and witnessed my all but a bedsheet naked mother run out of our house next door to her house and slam the door. My daughter was devastated and went to my sister's house. I asked her not to say anything until I first talked to my husband. I asked him for the truth. He told me that my mom seduced him when we were 18 and living in their house. They'd been having unprotected intercourse at least once a month for longer than we were married. I ran the math and was horrified, because the timeline meant my twin brothers and youngest brother could be my husband's. I immediately called my dad and told him to come to my house without my mom. I made my husband confess and my dad was devastated. He and my mom were high school sweethearts too. Needless to say, we could hear my mother screaming from her house when he confronted her. I then told my older sister and she and I decided to have her throw a party for the whole extended family, and we invited my ex's family as well. At the party, I had my 22F daughter take all the kids to our basement and put on a movie, leaving only the adult children and siblings, and I told them exactly what they'd been doing. Most of the family is on my side, except my 3 youngest siblings, 38F sister, ex's entire family. They all say I'm an off for dropping this publicly. Word got out and my mom's best friend, who is in leadership at my mom's church, my childhood church, called me to verify. My mom has since been let go as the children's pastor there, and she claims I've essentially ruined her reputation and life. My dad kicked her out and she's now living with my 38F sister. And lastly, my dad insisted on a DNA test for the 3 youngest boys before he'd consider anything to do with their marriage. The twins are my husband's bio children. I've since kicked him out and he's living with his parents. My father and I are discussing me moving into his much larger house and him selling my grandfather's house and him giving me the money to buy a new house somewhere else to get rid of the memories. My husband is appalled and furious that I proved he actually is about to have 7 kids, instead of 5, that I'm going to be taking half his business away from him. My husband started his own HVAC company a few years back, and for the first 5 years, I helped him get it set up, ran the office completely, and took time away from my teaching career to help him get this established. In my state, all marital assets, including businesses, are split 50-50. Since the house was still in my father's name, my husband will get no money from the sale, nor will my mother, since inherited assets are not subject to be split in divorces. My mother is also likely to not get any alimony, as our state is not a no-fault divorce state. I'm now over a month removed, still extremely bitter and angry at my mother, especially at her hypocrisy of calling me names and shaming my family, when she's done much worse. I also despise my ex with everything within me now, as he was effing both my mom and me in some instances, coming to our bed minutes later. He got my mother pregnant less than a week after getting me pregnant, and while I thought it was so cute and fun that I shared a pregnancy experience with my mom, she was carrying my children's half-siblings. He has broken all trust I had in men and being faithful. I have already procured a good lawyer from the firm that helped us in financial matters for both me and my dad is helping pay for it. My twin brothers, one of my sisters, and my entire ex's family have gone no contact with me and my minor children, and my children have essentially lost all of their grandparents but my dad, 2 uncles, and an aunt on my side, and my husband's 3 brothers, due to this mess. I've also developed ulcers and digestive issues because of this, so I'm visiting the doctor soon and I've been in therapy since the first week of January. I've offered this for my 2 adult children if they need family therapy with all of us, but they're doing individual therapy right now. My 14-year-old knows that we're getting divorced and why, and she's so angry at her dad that I struggle sending her to his house on the weekends. I feel like she's old enough to make a decision on that, but I don't want to damage her relationship with her dad. I've told all my kids it's okay to love their dad, even if he hurt me, but the oldest 2 I've cut him off 100%. I won't tell my youngest 2 until they're teens why we got divorced, and everyone else has agreed to not spill anything until they're old enough to understand. As for how I had no idea this affair was ongoing, my husband confirmed to me that they would have intercourse at my mom's office at church, in their cars, at a motel, and when we built the business, they started having it routinely in his office, once I went back to teaching. They also had it in our houses too when my father would go away on business trips or I'd be out of town. It was pure happenstance that I came home a day early from a trip, because I was uncomfortable from being nearly 7 months pregnant and just wanted my own bed, for me to find out. Knowing they'd be carrying on this full-blown affair still if I hadn't caught them is what I'm still upset about. The fact that the grandmother and father of my children cared so little about destroying our families is what I can't get past. What's hardest for me is that my own mother would do this to me and would continue to do this for years and not caring when it all blew up in her face that she would be destroying her entire family.